Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome to the Muslim Career Guide with your host Ilya Qayyum. Today I am joined with Sister Aya. Jazakallah so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, do you mind giving a brief introduction for those of the viewers who want to know more about you?
Of course. So my name is Aya, and I am a recent grad from the journalism program at Ryerson. Currently work as a full-time manager with a nonprofit organization. And I am also doing some freelance social media work on the side. So working with multiple clients on kind of as a side hustle next to my full-time job as well.
Wow, mashallah, super busy, I guess, because it's like I feel like that's also so busy on its own, and then with like an actual company too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so before we do get into the questions, though, I like to do like icebreakers with my guests. So it's just rapid fire, brief questions, and whatever is the most present answer you can give. So yeah.
Sorry, you cut up a little bit. What was the question?
Oh, I'm just gonna give the rapid fire questions. So I'll start right now. So, what is your favorite book?
Oh, my favorite book. It would have to be The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Definitely
I've
my
heard
favorite
of
book
that
right
one,
there.
but never like actually read it. But favorite movie?
Pride and Prejudice. The 2000 and I think it's a 2006 version. The best one ever.
Favorite emoji? Oh, sorry, you cut out there. What was your favorite emoji?
My favorite emoji?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Sorry about the Wi-Fi. It's so bad.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Um, yeah. Favorite emoji I would say is the white heart. For some reason, I love the white heart. I use it for everything.
Nice. Or texting or calling?
Ooh, it's a person. But I think voice messages. It's like my happy
Ooh.
medium.
Yeah, it's like you exactly. That's good. That just saves so much more time. But we'll jump right into questions now. So like you mentioned, you're also a social media manager, but you are also a like you also do freelance, so you have clients. But what, first of all, is a social media manager, and what are some of like the responsibilities that come with that? Okay, so yeah, my first question is what is a social media manager? What are some of the responsibilities that come with that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people think that, from the title, social media manager, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of work that goes into the behind the scenes and background work of social media. So essentially, as a social media manager, you're representing the brand and or the organization that you're working for. You are responsible for the visuals that are coming out, the language around the company, so how you talk about the brand, um, what your captions look like, what your newsletters look like, all of the language and written work that goes into a brand or organization kind of falls on the social media manager as well. Um, any digital outreach that you do. So, a social media manager can be responsible for email marketing. So, like I said, that would be the newsletters that maybe come out, or any fundraising campaigns through email that would also fall under the social media's managers, scope of work. Another new kind of concept of social media management is influencer marketing. So,
Mm-hmm.
building a database of influencers or people that you would want representing your products, promoting them, reaching out to them. And then, of course, just building the brand's image on social media. So, interacting with followers and building your audience, posting stories, reposting, resharing posts. So, really, everything that you are seeing and consuming on social media, or even through other mediums like email,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, yeah, all of that is coming from a social media manager.
That's like so much. Like, is that like one person doing all of that, or is that generally like a few managers that are responsible for it?
Yeah, it honestly depends on the organization or brand and how large it is. I would say a larger company would definitely need a social media team. So you might have someone who's responsible for the graphic design part of creating posters, someone who's responsible for creating the content calendar of what's going to go out this week or this month. Another person who's responsible for the emails and the influencer outreach. There are a lot of layers to social media. So the bigger the team, obviously, the better. But with smaller organizations, sometimes they're only able to hire that one person, and all of these small tasks kind of fall on the same person.
Yeah, it's like a lot more responsibility. And what type of degree slash training is required to become a social media manager?
So this one's interesting because you can definitely go to school and study marketing or communications and PR, and you would gain a lot of skills that would be directly applicable to your role as a social media manager. But at the same time, I know people with philosophy degrees who are in social media. I know people who
Oh,
have, food and nutrition degrees who are doing digital and social media. So it really is one of those skills that if you practice and if you're involved in it, you can easily pick up those skills that would, enable you to work in this position. And another option that you have is to do a quick, short-term certificate, and you would actually probably gain more experience in social media than you would in a university program, because university programs are usually more theory based,
mhm.
not too much hands-on work. But in a college degree or a certificate that you obtain, that it directly has to do with social media management or digital marketing or something like that, that would definitely be more applicable to the job. Just give me 1 second, sorry, if
Yeah,
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, honestly, it's like interesting too because it's like I feel like with social media, it I think can be learned almost like anything, and it's super interesting that recently a lot of people are saying you don't have to have degrees for a lot of jobs that people actually had to have degrees for, but now today it's like you can probably go get a training somewhere and you would be qualified for at least an entry level job, and then you would build up that experience. So it's interesting how social media is just one of them where you don't need school exactly for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I did journalism, so it's a form of communications, but it's not like the exact same thing as what I'm doing right now with my social media job. So I feel like it's definitely something that I had to build on my own using some of the communication skills that I learned at school, but also like it's something that you can definitely build if you have that motivation and that commitment.
Yeah, and what made you take that change from journalism to social media in a career?
So journalism is very, well, at least the journalism that I was doing at school was very like breaking news, who, what, where, when, and how. It was very like there was a rule book, a guideline for how to report on stories. And although I enjoyed that a lot and I enjoyed, the interviews that I would do with people for stories, the
Mm.
actual part of like writing it and then producing or publishing felt a little bit mundane to me. I kind of wanted to work on something that was communication related, but a little bit more creative and exciting, and something that isn't doesn't have to follow a rule book, something that is
Yeah,
kind of like inspiration in the moment. So that's definitely one of the reasons I think I shifted from journalism into social media.
no, that's definitely interesting how you now have a bit more of a creative, I guess, flow of what you want to do.
Mhm.
But how do you know when something, like maybe a campaign that you're running or a certain newsletter you sent out doesn't work and that you need to start making changes to it?
Yeah, I think with social media, it's usually it's easy to see when something's not working. It's
Yeah.
usually how the engagement is on a post. Let's talk about Instagram, for example. You do have tools to be able to analyze the engagement that you're receiving on a certain post. Sometimes the engagement isn't as high as you would want it to be. And it can be disappointing, like even with my own personal Instagram blog, I know there are moments where I'm excited about a post that I've worked really hard on, and then it not receiving the kind of numbers that you would hope for. It happens to everyone. I think it'll happen no matter how successful your brand is, no matter how successful you think your campaign is. Um, what I would suggest in that sense is just to go back to your kind of creativity inspo board that I recommend everybody who's working in social media create a Pinterest account, and create a bunch of inspiration boards to turn back to when you're kind of in a slump and you don't know what to do next, or things are not working for you like they used to. So you have to kind of shift your way of thinking. So turning to kind of your creative notes and boards that you have usually are very helpful. Um, Tagging new people and starting conversations with your audience, that's usually a good way to start getting your account to become more active and your post to become more engaged.
Right. And how much do you think the algorithm has to play with engagement? Because I've heard just some influencers say like, oh, the algorithm's down or it's being weird today, like whatever, like how much do you think it really has to play with people's engagement?
Yeah, I think it's changed so much, even in the past couple of months. I know that Instagram introduced a new way to boost engagement, and it used to be through likes and comments, and
Mhm.
it's actually not through that anymore. It's through saves. So if you save a
Oh,
post and if you reshare a post, so the reshare button is either resharing it to your story or sharing it with others. Those now are the two kind of aims that you want to look out for if you want to boost your post. It's
mhm.
kind of tricky and unfortunate because, you would assume that a like would be something that is, you know, kind of indicative of how good your post is doing, or comments even. But now it's the saves. That's the main thing that Instagram has. If you have more saves, your post is going to be, at the top.
Right.
So that's kind of, and a lot of what I'm talking about is through the Instagram lens. So I know, social media is huge. We have TikTok, you have Twitter, Facebook, all of these different social media platforms that kind of have their own algorithms.
Mhm.
But I think Instagram has, for at least the last few years, been very like visual heavy. Probably the social media platform that people turn to the most to build audiences and engagement, make money, work with other brands. It kind of is all encompassing. So I think that's kind of when I'm talking about social media, my mind goes straight to Instagram because that
Mm.
feels like just the most like it covers everything
It
basically.
does. No, I literally find most of my guests from Instagram actually for the Muslim career
Yeah.
guide. Like I found you from Instagram. And
Yeah.
like really interesting how like Instagram it started to turn less into a photo sharing app, kind of like similar to Facebook, to more like a almost a business. Like it's very much
Oh
like
yeah.
a whole
100%.
audience and you're like bringing people in and yeah, it's a lot of that pretty much. And it's just so interesting to think about how much it's changed itself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And I would say a lot of the change has been since COVID. The
Wow.
pandemic hit last year, and I find that, you know, the government's telling you to stay home, no more contact, but we're human, we need contact with other people. We need to express these weird and confusing emotions that came with this whole pandemic. And where did everyone go? Everyone went onto social media,
Mhm.
and Instagram to, post stories and videos and whatever it is that, just the everyday life of what it was like in COVID. And, brands also had to take advantage of the fact that, okay, our stores are closed, but we need to sell. How are we going to do that? Social media. So it's changed so much in the last year.
Yeah, that's crazy. And what are the type of analytics you collect when running like campaigns or making posts, like whether that's maybe Facebook or that's Instagram or whatever social media platform that you're using?
Yeah. So with Instagram, for example, analytics wise, you're looking for demographics. So like who your audience is, are they more male or female, or where do they live? So that helps you kind of cater your post towards your audience. What's their age group? That's a huge one for brands and organizations when they're trying to figure out, creating posters and, what language they're going to use. They want to cater it towards the demographic that's probably going to be looking at their posts.
Mhm.
So these are all things that you can access through the insights tab on your Instagram account. Um, Twitter is interesting because I'm not sure how Twitter works. I don't know if there are analytics for Twitter actually. I've never gone that far into that app. That app I find is a very unique one when it comes to social media platforms.
Definitely.
Um, you have the option to also, because Facebook now owns Instagram, it's actually a very similar way that they both operate when it comes to the analytics side of things. So you have the option to see how well your posts are doing, kind of, and you can compare weeks You can compare months, so you can see how much better your engagement is this month compared to last month. So these are all important things to see because it shows you like as well, like unique posts. So when I posted this last week, it did really well. Maybe I should try to recreate more of these things because people were so engaged with it. So these are important. And then also you can track and see like what time of the day is best to post because maybe it's not the best time to post at 12 a.m. at night.
Yeah.
Maybe this time, 1 p.m. is usually people's lunch breaks. That's when they go on their phones to scroll through Instagram. So thinking about your audience and thinking about things that way.
Yeah. And do you specialize in a certain social media? Because you mentioned that you do freelance. You also mentioned that you work for a company. So is there a certain social media that you feel you have more knowledge in, which is why you choose to go into that area more?
Yeah, I think that so most of the work I've done in social media has either been with nonprofit companies or with really small businesses.
Mhm.
So I think that's a personal choice I've made because I feel like when it's a smaller organization,
Mhm.
you have more flexibility in terms of like you're actually building that company from the ground up. Whereas like if I were to, for example, work like for Walmart's communications team on their social media team or whatever,
Mhm.
they have a very established, social media strategy. You don't have the flexibility that you would have with a company that opened last month and now they just want to get the word out there. So that I would say I do kind of aim to work with smaller businesses also because, they need it. Like
Yeah.
small businesses need these expertise, they need these kind of skills to get the word out there. There is so much competition on social media these days.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of feel like it's kind of more of a meaningful, intentional purpose on my end. Like I would want to work for a charity slash small business because I feel like the work that I'm putting in is more meaningful than if it were to be put into a company that's already very established on social media.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And also, like, it's interesting that you said with like small businesses because I feel like they're looking more for your input because again, they are a small business. They probably have never worked with other social media managers, so like they want your input and they want your
Yeah,
creative input into it. While like if you went, like you said, Walmart, if you went to Walmart, like they've had social media managers for years. Like they know what's working, and you would just again follow a guidebook, like you said previously, which then wasn't something that you were interested
exactly.
in.
Yeah, which is what like I said earlier, I kind of avoided journalism to
Mhm.
avoid that guidebook.
Yeah.
There are things that you want to follow when you're doing social media, but I think it's nice to have the flexibility of like you came up with an idea and you can implement it. You don't need to wait for 10 levels of approval to
Mhm.
make a post.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
yeah, that's great. And what are the perks and downfalls of being a social media manager?
So I think perks right off the bat, like it's exciting to be on social media. I think social media is an exciting concept.
Yeah.
Whether you are making a video for TikTok or, making a cool post for Instagram or a poll on Twitter, engaging in all of these conversations and being part of trends as they happen, it's an exciting thing. And
Mhm.
I think yeah, it's definitely fulfilling to be part of that. Um, I would say a huge downside though to working as a social media manager is the fact that you can't take social media breaks
Yeah.
because it is your job. It is your livelihood. I can't just be like, okay, you know what? I'm tired of Instagram. I'm deleting it for a month. I
Mhm.
could do that 2 years ago when I wasn't working in social media and it was draining to be on the app for so long. But now it's like I have to make these posts and I have to be on Instagram. I have to take care of these four different organizations. Um, and they need these posts to go out. So you can't take these breaks that actually would be very helpful for your mental health. I think everyone should try to take social media breaks whenever possible. But as a social media manager, it's very difficult to do so. um, I think it's already difficult as it is as a person, as a functioning human being to take
Exactly.
breaks from social media
Mhm.
because it's very addictive in that sense, but it's just so much harder to do
Mhm.
it when it's your job to be on social media and to follow trends.
Yeah. So how do you like tell yourself to just stop? Like I know, like even not just social media, but even like jobs have just become more online, and like it's like become easier to work from home. And so because it's so easy to do that, some people have like trouble just taking a break or even just stopping when they should be stopping work and taking that work-life balance. So how do you make sure that you have that?
That's a really good question, and it's also something that I'm still working on myself. I think
Mhm.
that I know we've been in this situation for a year, but a lot of us are still trying to figure out how to take care of ourselves while also living in the middle of a pandemic and working in the middle of a pandemic. One thing that's been nice, that it was my first year doing this, but it in the winter time, taking walks, even in the snow. Um, that was something that I avoided for probably my entire life here in Canada. Like if it was cold outside, like I'm not going outside.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Like you're not going to see me outside, but
Exactly.
this year I was like, okay, so we can't do anything else. Like I can't go to the mall and walk in the mall, or like walk somewhere else, or travel and get out of here and walk, in the Caribbean, but I can I can walk around my neighborhood. So, I like just try to do these small things. That's like every other night I have to go outside for a little walk, or I have to go and see like my aunt who lives like 2 blocks away. Like I have to do something where it's good for me and not just because it's my job, you know?
Yeah.
So taking small breaks like that, even if it's half an hour, I think it's so important.
Oh, definitely. Okay. It's like I think a common like misconception I had was like, oh, if I'm gonna take these 20-minute or even 5-minute breaks in between like, schoolwork, I'm gonna be wasting time. I could have been just doing work, but really it's like I'm mentally draining myself, and by the like 5 o'clock or even 4 o'clock, like I'm done. Like I don't want to do anything more. While if
Yeah.
I take breaks in between, like I can kind of continue going a little bit throughout the day, a little more than what I would have been doing. So it's like, and it's also just mentally like better for you. So I think it's so important to take little breaks throughout your day.
Oh yes, definitely.
Mhm. And like you mentioned that you are a freelance, like you work freelance with social media and you have clients. So how did you find clients and start gathering clients to start building your brand too?
I think a really helpful thing, and this is kind of maybe a little piece of advice for people who want to go into freelance, is build your own profile first. Like build a presence on social media
Mhm.
and a following, and be consistent on it, and just be true to your personal brand on social media, because other people will see that and they will come to you. So I do have a couple of people that I'm talking to right now. It's really just them discovering my social media blog that I have, and then realizing like, oh, maybe she can work for us and do a few
Mhm.
hours a week for us. So I think it's really important to get recognized right off the bat. And then from there, um, actually, let me rewind a little bit. The first thing you need to do is get yourself your first social media job.
Yeah.
So what I did during school, like during my time at Ryerson, I had the chance to do an internship for credit.
Mhm.
And that was around the time where I was realizing like, I think I want to do social media. I don't think I want to do like classic traditional journalism.
Mhm.
So I made sure to do an internship in social media. So it was a small internship. I was obviously very new to it. Like I was a newbie. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of learning things as I went. But that having that on my resume really opened up the doors to continue on in that field.
Yeah.
Um, and it looks good. Like I think it was a year that I worked for my first that first employer. My internship started as I think a few months, and then I was hired right after to just continue working for the full year. And then after that year I got another social media job, and then I did another summer social
Mhm.
media job last summer. So from there it really starts rolling, because you have that one first internship or position or volunteer position, whatever it is that you did first. It really helps when it comes to kind of getting the ball rolling.
Right.
And then after that, after building my own social media presence as well, that's when people started coming to me. And then I had my credentials ready. I had my resume ready. Like, this is my previous experience. This is where I've worked. This is what I've done. This is what I can do for you. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, and it's like it's interesting because it's that's where school I think comes in super handy because it's like the internship and like the co-op opportunities that come with school. I don't know if co-op is anywhere else, but I know Canada here at least the co-op is very like common. And so like having that opportunity, it's really easy. So you don't have to worry about that initial experience. Like the
Yeah.
school is gonna give it to you. And so that's really honestly helpful, probably that helps you get your foot into the door.
Yes, definitely.
And how has your perception of social media changed when you started working in it?
Um, I think it's changed. I think my perception of social media changes all the time, actually. I definitely started to become more conscious of the way that social media affects what I do and how I act and behave. Your followers or the people you follow, sorry, the people you follow will start to like unconsciously show up in your today actions. Things that you watch, things that you follow, things that you surround yourself with will eventually, if you're not conscious of it, if you're not reflective, will become things that you start to do and you start to think about and it's just, you just need to be mindful of it. So I think that's something that definitely, like, I think social media has this perfect look, especially Instagram has a perfect look on the outside. Everyone has a perfect life, everyone's happy. It's not like that, you know? A lot of times, you know, and then naturally everybody has, you know, a lot of things going on in their lives that aren't perfect, you know, disappointing moments, sad moments, angry moments, but you're not going to see that on social media. You see the perfect moments on social media. So that's really important to think about. And I realized that only after using social media for a long time and knowing people who I thought had perfect lives, and it turns out they didn't. And then me realizing as well sometimes where I feel like fake in a sense, where I'm like posting a really happy picture of myself,
Yeah.
but I just had a breakdown 10 minutes ago. So it's like, which one am I? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like you need to be more mindful of like not everyone's life is perfect, and also you don't have to
Mhm.
maintain that perfect image yourself.
Exactly.
So yeah,
No,
def-
exactly. It's like, and it's so true how like influential social media, that's literally where the term influencers come from. Because it's like, I'm noticing myself too, like common phrases that you'll say, like I'll pick up on it. And then I'm like, wait, I think that's what they said. And so it,
Mhm.
but like that's a small thing, like that's a minuscule thing. Look, we can, if the such a small thing that I can pick up is the way that they talk, like I can pick up other things like behavior and stuff like that. So I think you're so right. It's really important that you also just as much as you worry about the types of people you surround yourself with as friends, now you have to start worrying about who are the types of people you're like the content that you're consuming from. So that I mean, it's
Yeah,
really interesting how that happens.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
And what sort of tools do you use to stay organized? So like when you have brand deals and you have to keep that organized and content creation and newsletters, like so all the things that you do, what are the tools help you stay organized?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's a lot for this one. I'm even down to send you like a huge list that if you'd like to share it with
Yeah,
like your
absolutely.
followers or audience after,
I love that.
because I definitely have a few good tools up my sleeve. But Google Drive is
Mhm.
my baby. Google Drive is the best thing to use to stay organized, I think, especially if you're working with multiple clients. I like to have a different folder for each kind of organization or client that I'm working with. Um, so in terms of keeping documents and stuff organized, that's my number one. Canva is my number two. Canva is
Yeah.
amazing. If you don't have like superb graphic design skills, Canva is great for kind of helping you with that. And the great thing about Canva is that you could join different teams. So as opposed to having to sign in and log out of each single, especially if you're doing freelance, of every single kind of organization you're working with or brand you're working with, just assign yourself as a member of the team and you can be in your account and then travel between the different companies that you're working with.
Exactly.
So Canva is great for that. Canva is great for creating invoices, you know, email templates, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, all of those poster sizes. So basically anything that you're creating throughout your entire social media job, Canva has it covered for you.
Mhm.
Another one in terms of if you're creating to-do lists for yourself, my friend recently told me about this one actually. It's called Notion. Notion is great for creating to-do lists, and
Yeah.
it has lots of different features that I haven't explored yet, to be honest, because I'm very traditional. I just like to have a to-do list to like move
Yep.
things over from yes, I did it to nope, I have to work on this still. Um, And then a last big one for social media managers that are primarily working with Instagram, I would say Unum, which is spelled UNUM. That one is great for planning your feed. So if you are particular about, if you want picture quote, kind of, if you have an idea or vision for how you want pictures to line up on your Instagram feed, that
Right.
one is great for planning that, and you can schedule posts from it as well.
I mean, every app pretty much that you said, I was like, oh my god, because I love like all of them. Canva, especially, it's like, I mean, you could be good at like designing, but it's like it's still a more easier platform to use. And
Yeah.
with Notion, that I recently started using it too, and it's like I just found a template that I really liked, and I have it as like my weekly planner. I have it as like my daily agenda, and then
Mhm.
like also just two classes that I have on there. So it's
Yeah.
just I love apps like that, and it's just so fun to have that too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so great. And the
Mhm.
second last question is like, how do you build brand relationships? Because I know like as a social media manager, you have to build relationships with other brands, but also like you said, influencers, because that's a huge thing now. So how do you first of all find people who are in like within your brand and suit your brand, and then also like how do you build that connection with them?
I would say definitely start by following them.
Mhm.
A follow goes a long way because I mean, I've seen, and it seems very like, oh, of course, like, duh, you would follow them. But a lot of brands who want to work with other brands and other influencers don't follow the people they want to work with. So that part to me is always like, follow them. That's the first step. So follow them,
Mhm.
interact with their posts, like, comment, send them messages here and there, reply. That's the how you start building the relationship, especially
Yeah.
if maybe you're not at the stage yet where you're ready to start the like an actual relationship that depends on like a campaign together or not. But
Mhm.
at least build a relationship because you know that and they know that you guys have that relationship and you are ready to work on something when there is something to work on. So staying engaged. A good thing is to if you don't know where to look, if you know where to start, find hashtags that relate to what your brand is. So if for a hijab company, I am going to probably follow the hashtag hijab bloggers because then I can find hijabi bloggers under there, um, and engage with them. That's a really good place to start is find hashtags that relate to your brand and your brand vision, and then follow them and don't go overboard with following a bunch of people. I think you should be very intentional as well about the people that you want to represent your company or the brands that you want to work with. Don't just do it because you want the followers or the likes. Do it
Yeah.
because you think, okay, these people look like our values line up. We probably have a very similar goal and vision in mind. We should work together. Like this would be good for both of us.
Mhm.
I think that's the kind of mindset you should go into it with.
No, definitely. That's it's really interesting because you're building a real connection because social media can make that really hard, but you're building an actual real connection with that.
Yeah.
But I know you gave us such amazing advice throughout this whole episode. But if you could just give like one piece of advice for someone who wants to become a social media manager, or even just wants to work generally in social media, what would it be?
I do have a piece of advice, but I would say that it's more general than social media. I would give this advice to anyone who's going to
Yeah.
any job anywhere. I think that it's more important for you to care about what you're doing than to love what you're doing because every job will have its boring moments or its difficult moments or its disappointing and painful moments. And just loving it isn't going to cut it because if something hits and you're like, ugh, this sucks, I don't love it anymore. What are you going to do? I think
Mhm.
it's so important to care about what you're doing. And so in the same way that like I care for these brands, like these nonprofit or charity organizations that I work with, that's my drive. Even when I'm tired and I don't feel like doing the work, even when I would rather be somewhere else, or even if I just want to shut my laptop and turn off everything and just not respond to anyone. The
Mhm.
fact that you care about the work that you're doing is going to be the thing that drives you. So that's my advice for social media managers when it comes to picking who you want to work with or the type of social media that you want to do or the type of post that you're creating. Do you care about it? That's really important because if you don't care about it, you're not going to put your all into it.
Wow, that's like a life-changing piece of advice, honestly, because it's like, I mean, I felt nervous before. I was like, do I really love this? Like, am I cut out for this? 'Cause I don't love it. But really, it's like we all have those moments where we are just done with it. Like we just want to like
Yeah.
hold the computer, want to go like into bed and just watch a show. But it's like
Yes.
when if you do care about it and you have that intention at the end of the day, it's like you're gonna keep pushing into it. So it's not something to be nervous about when you don't love it 100% of the time, but you should care about it at least 100%
Definitely.
of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. I, for joining me today. It was so awesome to hear all the pieces of advice you had to give. I know even the people here at SunnahCamp would benefit so much from this because we've a lot of the students are also helping run the social media. So we're just so like, excited to have you. And Jazakallah so much for everyone for watching at home. And inshallah, we will see you all next Thursday.
Thank
Assalamualaikum.
you so much. Assalamu alaikum.